right, so now we're joined by Daria Kaleniuk, Executive Director of the Anti-Corruption Action Center. Thank you so much for joining us.
It's a pleasure.
So Ukraine got some bad news this week with the European Court of Justice recommending that sanctions on former Ukrainian Prime Minister Azarov be repealed. What was that all about?
Well, it was not a recommendation, it was a decision of the European Court of Justice after Azarov and other close associates of Yanukovych contested sanctions into the court. It was lasting for 1 year. Mm-hmm. However, the decision is about sanctions which were imposed from 2014 till 2015.
But this is pretty damning because they said, the sanctions were only imposed because they got a letter from the Ukrainian prosecutor saying that they thought there would be enough evidence. That's pretty weak and nothing since then.
Yeah, so the court decided that indeed it was very weak ground for imposing sanctions. Mm-hmm. However, this decision doesn't mean the sanctions are waived. Mm-hmm. Because in a year, in 2015, the EU imposed different sanctions on different grounds. And EU checked all grounds and all cases which were in hands of the General Prosecution Office of Ukraine, mm-hmm. requested all evidence, and was very straightforward to Ukrainian side, asking that, listen, if there will be no evidence of the process of crime, that these assets are illegal, sanctions will be waived. And actually in March 2015, 4 people were kicked out of the sanctions, mm-hmm. including Alexei Azarov, the son of the Prime Minister.
Mm-hmm.
So.
But when we're talking about these sanctions that the court was referring, what are they specifically? What do they limit?
These are sanctions which were in action for 1 year, since 2014 till 2015. So they don't actually act anymore. Mm-hmm. It was important for Azarov and others to contest these sanctions, just to make a claim later on, to say to the EU, the sanctions are weak, you did wrong, mm-hmm. Bad grounds, therefore please give us payment back. Okay. Our reputation was damaged, etc.
So they could receive damages for that.
Yeah, but the EU imposed new sanctions. However, the EU is very concerned with the fact that whether it would be possible to rely on the General Prosecution Office in future.
Because it doesn't seem like it is possible to rely on the General Prosecution
This is the issue. And in a month, the sanctions will be reviewed once again. They are reviewed once in a year. And all 28 member states, the Council, in the European Council, they will be considering whether to continue the sanctions on Yanukovych, on his son, on people like Ivan Yushchenko, whose assets in amount of 200 million are frozen in European countries. So, and these 28 member states, they will ask themselves whether there is any progress in these investigations. And if they will see that any case is brought to court yet, it will be a very negative argument mm-hmm. for our government.
But if we, coming back to the General Prosecutor's Office, there's been so much criticism, and it's not fair just to put it on the General Prosecutor himself. Certainly a lot of it's systematic.
Yeah, we have to put it on President Poroshenko, who is not firing General Prosecutor Shokin.
It's his responsibility for keeping him in.
2 people. Shokin, but he lost connection with reality, so we have to ask our president to dismiss this general prosecutor.
Because you're saying that he's lost connection with reality. There doesn't seem to be any other way of explaining not sending any more evidence to the EU, or Yanukovych being taken off Interpol's wanted list, or not prosecuting people for the Heavenly Hundred for the deaths on Maidan, for no action on that. It just boggles the mind how that's possible.
Yeah, or actually killing investigations, which is good. For example, the investigation of diamond prosecutors, the prosecutors which were caught in the General Prosecutor's Office and were...
With bags of diamonds.
Bags of diamonds, drugs and cash of a few $100,000. So this case was investigated by new people in Prosecutor General Office.
New meaning inexperienced?
Well, they are experienced, but they are kind of new generation people. It's one Georgian guy, another Ukrainian guy, Kasko and Sakvaralidze. Mm-hmm. They conducted this investigation. However, the pressure is still going on them, and the case is being killed, and it's the initiative of Shokin. However, I doubt that it's only Prosecutor General. I think it's the President who is doing that, unfortunately.
And what possible motivation can there be for that? Because some people are saying that it's Poroshenko who's cut deals with people behind the scenes, that they don't want accountability. They don't want accountability for people from the former party of the regions. What's your analysis of that?
Well, this could be one of the arguments which you're saying, but I think that President Poroshenko decided to continue using Prosecutor General office as it was used for decades in Ukraine, as a tool for political battles. Prosecution is a very powerful office in Ukraine, still, disregarding the new legislative changes. And if you have your loyal and controlled prosecutor, you can trigger case, close a case against anyone, business opponent, political opponent, anyone.
Well, and the so-called pocket prosecutor.
Yeah, and you can use this possibility as a bargaining power when you want someone to vote or not vote in the parliament, when you want someone in a business to do something or not. So I think that this could be the only motivation for the president to keep Shokin, who is very loyal to president, who was his family friend.
Mm-hmm. And so when we talk about the new institutions that are being created, everything you're describing is very much old system Ukraine. It's trading favors, it's buying loyalty, it's trading this for that and using politics and office as a position for power. When we talk about the new bodies that have been created post-Maidan, we talk about the anti-corruption prosecutor, we talk about the anti-corruption bureau. Where do they stand right now? Are they in a position where they could break the old system? And if not, what do they need? Yeah,
they just... 1 month ago, they got investigative powers, real investigative powers to start investigations. They have strong guarantees of independence. There were selection procedures for selecting of the management of these institutions, and selection procedures for selecting average detectives and prosecutors are going on. In December, they started to work, and there are already very, powerful people who are being investigated. Mm-hmm. This is what we hear from different court registries. NABU doesn't tell a lot about their investigations because it can harm, but because some information is leaked through courts, through open court registry, it's known that many investigations, many cases which General Prosecutor didn't want to take, NABU is taking.
So he doesn't approve their cases, they're able to pursue their own?
Of course, yeah. They're independent from General Prosecutor. There was set up specialized anti-corruption prosecutor's office. Formally, it is under the General Prosecutor office. However, it has strong guarantees of independence. So the anti-corruption prosecutor shouldn't do the orders of General Prosecutor, and General Prosecutor is limited in its influence over anti-corruption prosecutor.
And do they have a budget to, how much can they really be expected to do?
They have budget. The salaries of anti-corruption prosecutors and detectives of National Anti-Corruption Bureau are quite high for Ukraine, so they can guarantee that people who enter the system, they will be independent, as they will not have to think what to eat and where to live. And it will help them to refrain from taking bribes for investigating or not investigating.
Do you remember how much they are, the salaries?
At least $1,000 for average detectives and prosecutors and more. So it's for Ukraine, it's quite a lot. For example, the Prime Minister gets probably 2 times less. And the Deputy Prime Minister could get $300.
And the average monthly wage is about $150. So
right. So it's quite a good salary to live in Kiev and to have your family here. And for us, it was one of the key guarantees of independence of this agency. First, guarantee selection procedures, and we try to ensure that more and more independent and new people from regions, they can enter the system, and that they have financial independency to do their job well. So NABU will not present results in 2 months or in 6 months. Investigations, especially tough investigations, financial investigations, they take at least a year if they are good. But we have to give them time, and it looks that they are now capable to do their work well.
Well, I mean, that's the interesting thing, that they seem to finally have been given the tools and the budget and the autonomy to do something.
Yep.
So now it's a question of seeing how they apply it. Well, thank you so much for
Yep.
joining us, and we'll
You're welcome.
continue to follow this issue.